guess we'll go ahead and get started. Appreciate you all being here this morning, especially with the weather forecast the way that it is. But at least here we're dry, at least for the time being. Hopefully it's not going to get any worse, right? So, good morning. I'm Jason Ellis, Associate Professor of English here at City Tech and coordinator of the City Tech Science Fiction Collection. For this year's symposium, I'm joined by co-organizers Jill Belli, Associate Professor of English, Wynette Clyde, Associate Professor and Collections Management and Archives Librarian, Lee Gold, Doctoral Lecturer of English, Kel Krupinski, Associate Professor in Information Technology and Library of Rome Librarian, Lucas Kwong, Associate Professor of English, and Vivian Zulaga-Pat, Doctoral Lecturer of English. For this year's symposium, we wanted to explore image and SF and its many layers. Imagery written and described in SF literature, the image imagined by the SF reader, the images of illustrations, artwork, video games, special effects, board games, and the representations corresponding with SF images written, imagined, and created. We have a program today we hope won't disappoint. We're going to begin this morning with 2 paper presentation sessions that interrogate images we see, remember, and use, especially in the case of climate change. Then we have a student discussion panel focusing on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Next, there is the analog Asimov writers and artists panel, followed by the concluding keynote address by SF writer and BMCC Professor of English, Carlos Hernandez. We would like to thank Dean Justin Vázquez-Poritz for his assistant Michael Kahn for their support and coordination for making today's event take place. We'd also like to thank Trevor Kashi, Emily Hockaday, and Must Read Magazines and their titles Analog SF and Fact and Asimov Science Fiction Magazine for continuing their collaboration with the symposium, arranging the writers and artists panel, and donating copies of their magazines to give out to attendees. So when you came in, after you signed in, if you didn't see, we have some goodie bags over there with copies of Analog and Asimov, so make sure you grab one of those. A special thanks goes out to Savon Andrews for designing this year's poster. You have this black hole iris eye framed by hands, cool design. And one of the things about the poster design is that it's by designers that work in the faculty commons at City Tech, and we give them a lot of latitude in what they design. We give them some images and ideas, and they run with it. So it's good to have the symposium give them a space where they can experiment with their own artistic styles. And I mentioned Faculty Commons. It's run by Associate Professor and Chair of the Advertising, Design, and Graphic Arts Department, Mary Ann Beal, so thanks to her for operating that. And again, thank you to Carlos Hernandez for agreeing to be our keynote speaker today. And thank you to all today's presenters. I think this is going to be an exciting conversation that we're going to be able to have together. And thank you all for being here again. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dean Vázquez-Poritz.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And we made it to number 10. Welcome to the 10th Science Fiction Symposium. So, speaking of numbers, there is one number that has haunted me for the last few years. You know how YouTube is a bit addictive and you can watch pretty much whatever video you want to watch. And I guess one of the folks that I've looked up over the years is Carl Sagan. And there's a particular video, I think it's an episode of his television show in which he's in a grand library with huge bookcases, and he says, the average human during a lifetime can read books, the number of books go from basically here to, and it was surprisingly short, about here. And I suppose we could do that experiment in the science fiction collection and say you'll only get to read these books. And that's quite scary. So I've done the calculation, and if, in my most inspiring weeks of reading, as a lifetime, I could get to maybe about 4,000 books. And I don't know, maybe that seems like a lot to you. Probably it doesn't seem like a lot to any of you, since I'm sure you're all into reading. So for me, that's quite scary. And something that I've come to realize though, is that as I go through my 4,000 books, and I'll eventually forget things, sometimes it's that single image that can make a book meaningful. And looking back at my childhood, it was a single image from A Wrinkle in Time that motivated me to become a physicist. That image was of Meg Murray's father experiencing a slowing down, practically stopping of time, and yet he was only, a few feet, inches away from Meg. His experience of time was completely different. And so that motivated me as a kid to look into that a bit further. I learned, starting qualitatively, I learned a bit about relativity, about how the slowing down of time is basically what gravity is. And in the extreme situation where you're approaching, something like the event horizon of a black hole, time comes to a complete stop. And by the way, Jason and I have been having a debate as to whether this is a black hole or a wormhole. And I've concluded that because you can kind of see the galaxies on the other side, this is in fact a wormhole. And wormholes have accretion disks as well. So as you can see, it was that image that inspired me to become a physicist, and I think that's just one example of the profound impact that imagery can have, not only in science fiction, but in education, igniting the curiosity of learning. So as I go through my chosen 4,000 books, I know that I'm going to forget a lot of the details. And I know this because I've started rereading some of those books, including A Wrinkle in Time. Some of the details I'm happy to forget. So for example, I had forgotten how moody Meg was. That was kind of annoying and I thought kind of distracting from the rest of the story. But indeed, one solid image is all I need. I mean, here's another image. Being a stowaway on a spaceship by hiding in a whale. What a juxtaposition that is, right? So I look very much forward to hearing all about the images that have been important to some of you and that some of you have created. I give my heartfelt thanks to all of the people that have made today's event possible. A huge thanks to Professor Jason Ellis, as well as all of the other symposium co-organizers, Professors Jill Belli, Lynette Clyde, Lee Gold, Kelper Karpinski, Lucas Kwong, and Vivian Zuluaga-Pop. Each year, Professor Marianne Beale's team of ComD design students have been creating original art, such as this black hole-wormhole, and I thank them for doing this. I think every single year of the 10 years, they've come out with a different image representing a particular genre or science fiction period. I would also like to thank all of our moderators, presenters, including student presenters, especially student presenters perhaps, writers, artists, and editors. I would like to thank Emily Hockaday for organizing the writer-artist panel. Thank you to Carlos Hernandez for delivering this year's keynote address. And by the way, the title, I think, could be extrapolated to physics as well, and has often been asked by physicists. Is contemporary physics strange enough? Yep. And lastly, I would like to thank all of you who contribute to the dynamical conversations that will take place today. Thank you.